So today is December 31st, the last day of the year and the ending of 2023. And I think it's a good opportunity to have a look back at this past year and just to reflect on the different experiences that we've had. And there's many different reflections that we can do. I think one that's very important and useful is just looking at how our experience has changed over the past year, and particularly for those of us who have spent most or all of this year living here in the monastery. This particular monastery tends to be very stable, and there's not really much that changes on a day-to-day basis. Our schedule is almost the same every day with, very minor changes, and the things that we do each day, the activities, the work projects and the morning and evening chanting, and even who we work with on a daily basis for most of the year changes very, very little. There's very little coming and going in the community, a little bit, but the experience is that day after day, it's most things are quite stable and ordinary, and we tend to have very similar external experiences on a day-to-day basis in a place like this. But of course our internal experience can fluctuate quite wildly, from one extreme to the other. From one day to another, we can go from being incredibly happy to being incredibly depressed, going from like a mental heaven realm to a hell realm. And even though externally we can be doing the same thing that we always do, our internal experience can be incredibly different on a day-to-day basis. So I think it's very useful to reflect on, all of the difficulties that we've had over the past year, whether they've been particular people or particular activities. We can reflect, over the past year, were those particular people, were those particular activities, were they always difficult, or was it just on certain days? And, of course, if we've spent many days over the past year working with those people or doing those particular activities, we'll see that, it wasn't always difficult. Maybe many days working in the kitchen or something was kind of like a hell-like experience, but maybe we can remember many other days where we worked in the kitchen where it was quite enjoyable. So I think there's a real, insight that can come from reflecting in this way. So like the simile that Rinpoche gave, that like if there's a really deep hole and there's an object at the bottom, somebody is trying to reach into the hole to get that object, but it's just out of reach, they can't quite get it. Everyone will say that the hole is too deep, and no one will say that their arm is too short. So we always tend to think that the problem is outside of ourselves. We tend to not really think that maybe we're the one who's actually causing the problem. Maybe the problem is coming from within our own mind. And reflecting on the past year in this way, we can develop some insight into kind of challenging the assumptions of the mind, thinking that it's that particular person, it's that particular activity, that's what is really bothering me, causing me suffering. Reflecting that, there were many times over the past year where actually that person, for that particular day, I kind of almost enjoyed being around them, or I almost enjoyed working in the kitchen on some days. this is, I think it can be a very useful reflection, not just looking into the past, but looking into the present and in the future, when we experience difficulties today or in the coming weeks of this next year, we can use this kind of reflection to challenge the ideas, the beliefs that are arising, the very strong beliefs that will continue to arise that, if only this person wasn't around, if only I didn't have to do this activity, then I would be able to be peaceful, then I'd be able to be happy. But if we reflect in this way on our past experiences, then we can start to challenge that belief, and eventually maybe we can start to break through it. So these are just a few reflections for ending the year, and offer that for reflection today.